Now joining us over the phone is political analyst Hafsa Kara-Mustapha. Thank you for joining us today. Now, Dieudonne has been convicted 7 times for inciting racial hatred against Jews. Is he consciously making a mockery of the ideas around free speech?
Well, I think he's trying to highlight the sheer hypocrisy of the French system. Now, you have to bear in mind that those who make these laws are people, and these people stand to only support one side of the argument time and time again. So just to come back on the case of today, what seems to be missing from the whole story is obviously the important background, which is that what pushed him to actually say what he did about the Jewish journalist. Now, the Jewish journalist, first and foremost, attacked him on a show, saying that he should not be allowed, him and Tariq Ramadan, who's a very famous Islamic scholar, claiming that these people had diseased minds. Now, Dieudonne insisted that the idea of having a diseased mind was something that the Nazis used to use, it was a phrase that the Nazis used to use in reference to the races they deemed inferior. And therefore, in response to his critic, Dieudonne made a reference in the show that at the time, had he been around and had the gas chambers happened, then, well, he wouldn't have done anything to save him. So in response to a deeply offensive remark by Patrick Cohen, who is the Jewish journalist from whom all this affair has started, Dieudonne responded in kind. And therefore, what Dieudonne is doing is really highlighting the sheer double standards and the hypocrisy of the French first judicial system and, of course, the overall media apparatus that constantly feeds this idea that Dieudonne is an anti-Semite, while allowing those who are offensive and incredibly racist towards Muslims or towards black minorities to get away with saying the worst of possible things.
So we're seeing again this hypocrisy that you mentioned, but so then where is the line when it comes to free speech?
Well, there is a very clear line in French law. There is the Guessot law, which absolutely outlaws any criticism, any questioning, any debate on the Holocaust. So people who mock the Holocaust, for instance, can be sentenced for up to 5 years in prison. So you already have that idea that there is a limit to free speech. There are various other issues, in particular in regards to Jewish communities, that are no-go areas for anybody, whether in open debate or whether in terms of satire. Now, of course, we've seen that when Dieudonne has complained about this double standard, the response, and mentioning the Charlie Hebdo offensive cartoons, the response was, well, those cartoons are fair game, they're satire, but your remarks are unacceptable because they hate speech. Now, the thing that is very important to note is that at no point has Dieudonne appealed for any acts of violence against any minority. He has not specifically mentioned any minority. He has simply mocked all groups, including black people, including Muslims, and of course including Jews, just to show that actually in a free and open society, all people should be fair game for satire. But of course, what he has managed to highlight so blatantly is that that is simply not the case. Only Muslims, and to a lesser degree black people, are fair game for insults, for offense, but not all minorities in France are treated the same.
And why would you say it is that Islam is taken so lightly in this way?
Well, I think for one reason, the Muslim community, despite being quite a very, very large community, is not a powerful community as such. You know, it remains an essentially working class group. You will not see people in the highest echelons of politics coming from the Muslim community. You will not see people in the finance sector, in the media sector. So they are a weak community, and therefore they're fair game for attacks. It would be the equivalent, if you'd like, in the UK for comedians as a satirist to constantly joke about the traveller community. You know, they have very, very little, if no influence whatsoever in politics or in the media or in any area that is of importance to the functioning of any society, and therefore they're an easy target. And of course, let's be honest, I mean, historically, France is has very deeply rooted racism and Islamophobia. So I think all these things meddled together make for an environment that just allows Islamophobia to thrive. And we've seen the examples that you've mentioned even in your reports.
Hafsa Kara-Mustapha, political analyst, thank you very much for joining us today.